What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Yeah, another boring video for ya. It's my 88 Dodge Dakota. Transmission went out on me, so I figured I'd make a couple how-tos while I'm getting this thing fixed up. Today, I'm gonna show you how to remove a transfer case from an 87 to 96 Dodge Dakota. So here's your transfer case. Just right underneath the truck. This one's an NP231. You might have a different one depending on the year of your Dakota. So start out with, we have the front drive shaft. You have E-Torx bits or bolts holding it to the transfer case. I don't know why they use that style. You need a special E-Torx wrench to get that off. I'm just gonna use some vice grips. Make sure it's in 4-wheel drive so it doesn't spin when you're trying to turn them. And then down on the axle side, you have 4 10mm bolts. A lot easier to get to. You can just throw a drill on there, zip them off. Then you got to remove the rear drive shaft. I've already done that. It's just over there, 4 10mm bolts on the rear axle holding it in, and then slides right out of the yoke. And then we have this cross member here. This one's kind of a pain in the butt too. So you have these bolts up here, or nuts, but they're not welded or anything on either side. So you have to get a socket on the inner frame on the bolt head, which is a 14, and a 14mm wrench on the outside, and zip them off. There's 4 on this side, 4 on that side. Make sure you have your jack supporting the transmission. I usually support it on the transmission pan with like a towel or a piece of wood all the way across it to keep it from collapsing in. And then you have those 2 bolts. This is a brace or a transmission mount attached to this brace right here. So if you take those off, then when you drop this brace, you can basically drop the brace and the mount, and then it's just the transmission supported by the jack, and then you can let it down. Once you let it down, this is where the transfer case mates up to the transmission. You're gonna have a bunch of 15mm bolt or nuts all the way around, and so you wanna lower the transmission down about 2 or 3 inches so you can get your arm all the way up there to those guys, and there's 2 on the very top that you can't see as well. And then aside from that, all you have is these 3 sensors. So that one unplugs, this one unplugs. That one, I believe it's like a 19mm wrench, and you just unscrew that. And then this whole cord, which is your speedometer cable, should pop out of there, and then transfer case is free. So I don't have a Torx head that'll actually fit, or an E-Torx that'll actually fit on this bolt, so I'm just taking these vice grips, I'm just gripping it and then turning it, and I only have limited room, but you can get it, and then once it's loose enough, you can take your needle nose and start using your needle nose, a little more room, and then eventually you should be able to get them off with your finger. With these transfer case linkages, it can be a pain to pop the bushing out, but I just take these trim tools and stick it right in between the bushing and just pops right off. It's actually a pretty neat tool to use for that. Last step to get everything unhooked from the transfer case. This is like your linkage bracket up here, and there's just 2 17mm bolts that hold it in, and then this whole assembly right here pops off of it, and then we can finally get to these guys and get the transfer case pulled back. Transfer case is ready to come out. You might want to wiggle it first and make sure that no oil is going to leak out in between the transmission and the transfer case and hit you right in the face. But I'm going to go put this in, or the transmission in neutral. It'll make it a lot easier to get this out. I like to do this not on wheels.
because this is where it becomes a pain. Okay, so this one does want to leak on me. I'm gonna get my face out of the way. And these things are heavy, so be careful. I'm gonna grab a towel real quick. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, it's not horrible, but it is heavy. But there she is. Whew. Forgot to disconnect the breather. Boop. So now the fun part is going to be taking out the transmission. Not looking forward to that. But pretty straightforward with the transfer case. It took me about an hour and a half in between getting everything disconnected. But again, I'm also doing a transmission removal, so I took some extra steps, but everything I showed you in this video is how you're gonna take this out. You put it in exactly the same way.
Well, this truck is sure kicking my butt. It's gonna keep kicking my butt. And I don't like my butt kicked, but that's what happens, especially my first time really tearing this thing apart. But transfer case is pretty simple. If you have all the tools, you know what you're doing. It's pretty simple. Kind of sucks when you don't have like a lift or anything because it's really hard to move around under there, but doable. And like I said, I'm pulling the whole transmission out of this and gonna be learning how to teaching myself basically how to rebuild it. So I'll keep doing small little how-tos throughout this process, and I'll also have a full video of the complete tear down and put back together and the test drive to make sure I did everything right. So stay tuned. Really appreciate you guys watching.